Adonai mi yagur bohalecha, mi yishkon bahar kodshecha, O God who may stand in your holy place, upon your holy mountain. We here now summon the confirmation class of 5784 to Kabbalat Torah confirmation.
And you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, you shall be a blessing, Lechila.
This festival of first fruits, our offering is the fruit of our faith. As this past year has been filled with questions, too many for us to answer, may our questions ever continue. For this is the start, our search, our struggle, to bring meaning to our lives, through inspired ideas and healing to our planet, through caring hearts and our outreaching hands.
The 10th grade journey of confirmation is really all about figuring out what we believe as 10th graders and why this whole God thing matters so much, and how in a year and in a world that sometimes gives us very few answers, asking the questions alone is sometimes enough. It has been an amazing journey every Tuesday night from 6:30 to 8 with 26 seekers. They have explored Jewish God thinking over the past 3,000 years, and they've figured out what they want to confirm about their Judaism and their covenant with God and the world. You will hear their Sinai statements. As I just told the confirmation class, tonight is the night at midnight, Shavuot, when the sky opens up, God's presence appears, and God gives us the Torah all over again. Your Torah is a little different. If you listen carefully to their words, that is the Torah that you will receive. True insights, sacred discoveries, awesome questions about who we are and why we're here. It is a gift to share in Confirmation 5784.
When I was younger, my image of God was the man in the sky who controlled the world. As I matured and learned more, I knew that that wasn't true. God doesn't control the world. Nothing solely can control the world. But coming into confirmation class, my understanding of God wasn't far off from that man in the clouds. As I listened to each philosopher's interpretation of God, they all made sense to me. I understood them, but I didn't understand how they could all be correct. I wondered how all of these people could be right, yet so different in their interpretations of the same God. I am a literal person. I struggle to understand sarcasm, metaphors, and irony. Because of the way that I take in the world around me, I was not able to see God solely in our connections, but I can see God as an essential idea. Rambam, or Moses Maimonides, was the greatest codifier of Jewish law and philosopher of medieval times. He taught that God is a simple being, exists, and has no body. This makes complete sense to me. When someone says, "Thank God," I actually understand who they are thanking. Rambam goes on to cosmologically prove the existence of God. Referring to the teachings of Aristotle, he points out that everything is caused by something else. But this domino effect had to have started somewhere, a prime mover, and more specifically, that someone is God. While God didn't pick up his hand and push down the domino, since God has no body, God's presence did. Rambam also wrote that it is beyond the capacity of the human mind to comprehend the totality of God. My idea of God is still developing, and it will be ever-changing. In 5, 10, 30 years from now, the God that I will look to and thank will be different, depending on the answers that I am looking for in life at the time. But from now on, it will be clear to me that God is a being, that God is one, without a body or any physical manifestation. And to my literal mind, seeking to perceive my place in the universe, that makes sense.
When starting confirmation class, it originated as an Oprah interview with the rabbi where we made a deal.
You got a deal.
Yeah, we made a deal that if Rabbi Serkman did the interview, I would have to do the confirmation class. So the journey began. I have learned many things during my time at confirmation, talking about Jewish philosophers over Sour Patch Kids. One Tuesday night, we were introduced to a very special German Jewish thinker named Martin Buber. Buber conceived the idea of I Thou moments, and this resonated deeply with me. I Thou moments are experiences in your life where you connect with another person so greatly, so fully, it lingers in your mind for what feels like an eternity. I instantly began racking my mind for the I Thou moments in my life. As Buber famously taught, all living is meaning. All real living is meaning. While searching, I realized I Thou moments may not happen in your life on a day-to-day basis, but when they do, they leave a mark on your soul. When thinking through my past, I come across a specific I Thou moment. My family loves to go on hikes, especially on vacation. One day, on vacation, my parents decided to take my brother and I on a strenuous hike. But on this hike, I had conversations separately with my mom and dad, talking about their childhood experiences and sharing mine. This exchange was truly mutual, open-hearted, and sincere. These conversations will continue to exist throughout my life whenever I think of a true I Thou moment. I Thou moments will appear when you least expect them. You cannot anticipate or plan for an I Thou moment because it's random and spontaneous. But when you do, in the connection between people, God is somewhere, somehow, there as well.
We kindle the lights of the Festival of Shavuot. Deb Finkelstein, Diana, you're going to join her? Come on up. Generations. It's generations. I could have asked any parent, but I had to ask Deb Finkelstein because Deb is a confirmand of Larchmont Temple. I think she was a confirmand the year before I got here, if I'm doing the math right. I missed her by 1 year, and Diana, a past president of our congregation. All right. All you gotta do is light the light. No, she's singing. You just gotta light the light. Yeah. Go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Thank you, guys. And we rise for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
Your bar mitzvah, you get grape juice. This is wine. We made this morning. Frank, is it grape juice? I think it's grape juice. Oops, it's grape juice. Oops. Never believe the rabbi. I'm just telling you right now. Have a seat.
Judaism has always been an important part of my life. Whether it's annual events like Passover Seder's or everyday moments like glancing at the mezuzah on my doorframe when returning home, being Jewish has shaped my identity in both profound and subtle ways. However, I've recently begun growing more connected to my faith, and thus have simultaneously been attempting to build a relationship with God. This spiritual journey has had its ups and downs. If you'd asked me 8 months ago if I believed in God, I would have said no, that there was no use in putting your faith in something that's existence is not supported by any known scientific or mathematical evidence. But now I'm not so sure. With the help of Rabbi Serkman, I've recently realized that believing in God is not just about pouring your devotion into an imaginary entity. Rather, believing in God is both a unique and personal experience for every individual. In my case, however, one Jewish thinker was able to capture an idea of what God is in a particular way that has fascinated me ever since I learned about it in confirmation class months ago. Erich Fromm, a Jewish thinker born in 1900, who is now regarded as one of the most influential humanist philosophers of the 20th century. For one, he believed that maintaining a relationship with God does not necessarily mean praying 10 times a day or sacrificing things you enjoy. He thought that we could bring ourselves closer to God simply by being the best version of ourselves. But how? Fromm teaches that there are 5 vital human needs that allow us to become the most enlightened versions of ourselves. These needs include relatedness to others, rootedness in a greater community, transcendence by maintaining the capacity for creation, a sense of identity for yourself as an individual, and a frame of orientation and devotion, or in other words, a better understanding of our reality. Fromm's understanding is that God is a shared value, our aspiration to join together to create a world where goodness prevails. To me, this means that believing in God is about doing good, striving to be your best self. This makes God not some power ruling over us, but a power within us.
This is Baruch. It's the Shema and her blessings. We'll see you later.
Do you believe in God? This is the question that has been repeated to me so many times throughout my life. To be honest, up until now, I have always just answered yes, because I thought being Jewish meant believing in a God. Being raised in a Jewish family and attending Larchmont Temple for years has helped me create my own Jewish identity. However, I haven't quite been able to figure out where God fits in my life. Experiencing this year's confirmation class has helped me accept that I don't believe in the traditional God, but there is a God for me to believe in. I've always been a straight-up kind of guy. I believe what I can see in front of me. So believing in something I've never been able to see or feel is challenging. At the same time, I've always said that everything happens for a reason. I've always believed that if you control what you can control, everything is going to work itself out. So does this mean that God is with me, or that there is something in this world we can call God? In all honesty, I'm still figuring out who God is for me. However, I think Erich Fromm, an early 20th century German Jewish psychiatrist and Jewish thinker, puts it best. When Fromm says, God is the image of a man's higher self, a symbol of what we ought to become, he is telling us that God isn't some higher power, but instead, God is the best version of ourselves. God isn't some being that strives to rule over us, but instead, God is inside us, pushing us to be our best self every day. God is by our side on our journey to achieve the best version of ourselves. Fromm has helped me come to terms with who God is in my life. Though I can't touch or see a God who is our greatest goodness, I can definitely feel it. As of right now, I see God as a force inside me that is constantly pushing me to be as good as I can be, to do my best in everything I undertake. When I work really hard to achieve something and I finally cross the finish line, I know that God was there helping me along the way. And when we all work together to make our world more fair and just, God is the collective good that we could never accomplish alone.
Day and night, show us the way, teaching us to number our days. When we rise and when we lie down, Ahavat olam. Ki heim chayenu ve'orech yameinu. Uvahem neged teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down, Ahavat Olam.
How can we embody the positive attributes of God in our daily lives? This question lies at the center of our thinking in Kabbalah's teachings of messengers and entrances. According to Jewish mysticism, it is us, everyday people, who act as God's messengers through daily actions and interactions. By embodying the role of a messenger, we open up pathways for other people and thereby enable God's presence. The Hebrew word for messenger is malach, which also means angel. Angels are defined as spiritual beings believed to act as an intendant, agent, or messenger of God, conventionally represented in human form with wings and a long robe. It is also defined as a person of exemplary conduct or virtue, and this is exactly what we personify through our kindness. When most think of God, we think of compassion and love. We become conduits of these qualities when we simply extend a helping hand, share a kind word, or offer a smile. In doing so, we uplift those around us by inviting them to participate in a giving and receiving exchange. As we perform acts of kindness, we harvest the foundations required for deep and meaningful connections. When we help others, it makes them more inclined to help us, creating a cycle of generosity and support. The characteristics we attribute to God, kindness, compassion, and understanding, are reflected within us. A gesture that seems so simple to us, like waving at a stranger or inviting a neighbor to join us for dinner, echoes something sacred. But here's the Kabbalistic twist. The thing about being a messenger is we may never know if and when we are one, whether it's giving someone a hug without knowing how much they needed it, or telling someone feeling lonely you love them, or simply extending concern for another person. As Kabbalah implies, even without knowing the full impacts of our acts, we can change the world. All we have to do is be that messenger. A messenger for me was in the North Carolina airport. My mom grabbed my two sisters' hands and stepped onto the escalator, assuming I would trail behind. But as I stood in front of the moving steps, inching my foot towards it, my 4-year-old self was too scared to step onto the escalator. I watched as my mom moved further and further away, my heart pounding faster and faster, and her voice calling for me to get on grew quieter and quieter. Then a hand reached out beside me as the stranger helped me onto the escalator and off again at the top. As I entered into my mom's hug, the man walked away without a word. He did not do it for anything in return. He walked away from a smiling little girl and a relieved mother. To him, it was just a simple act of extending a hand. When he thinks back to whatever that trip was, he probably does not remember my face or the kindness that he showed. But as I look back on my trip to North Carolina, that is the first thing that I remember. Our daily actions carry profound implications beyond what we may recognize. What appears so simple could be the catalyst for significant change in one's day or even their life. Similarly, when we choose to embody the positive attributes of God in our daily lives, we have the power to impact others in ways we may never fully comprehend. Our actions as messengers of God's love and compassion can inspire others to do the same. When people witness kindness in action, it serves as a powerful reminder of the goodness that exists in the world and motivates them to pay it forward in their own lives. In this way, our individual actions have the potential to create a ripple effect of positivity that spreads far and wide. So, smile at a stranger, hold the door for the person behind you, tell someone you love them. Through our actions as messengers, we create pathways for others, divine connections, and when we can create relationships grounded in love and empathy, somehow God is there too.
השפע ובהון מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברתם בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
We cannot know any person or object in apart from its relation to us. This is a powerful statement that I learned from Martin Buber. Martin Buber was an Austrian Jewish philosopher who was a fierce believer in the idea that God is always present in our lives. Buber's philosophy was that when we form I-thou relationships with other individuals, we're additionally forming a relationship with God. The difference between I-thou and an I-it relationship is that in an I-it relationship, the relationship lacks a sense of mutuality. It's practically people providing services to each other. On the contrary, an I-thou relationship is when the individuals don't use each other, they connect. They are both individual people who accept who the other is for themselves. Buber claims that before you make any assumptions about an individual, you have to talk to them first. This philosophy, Buber's existentialism, I believe helps us find God. As everyone here is likely aware, there are many stereotypes in our society. Examples include religious, racial, and social class stereotypes. People in our society make generalized beliefs or assumptions about particular groups of people based on their characteristics. As Jewish people, we have been faced with inaccurate stereotypes throughout history. Our society stands to gain valuable insight from the teachings of Buber. Buber advocated for the idea of not judging someone before engaging in dialogue with them. He believes that a true understanding of an individual cannot be uncovered without the use of dialogue. I think this is a great lesson for our society to learn because it can help us teach all people to not judge a book by its cover. Adopting Buber's teaching can help people refrain from preconceived judgments and ensure that people are truly listening to others so that they can foster deeper relationships. Not prematurely judging someone can lead to more I-thou relationships, which according to Buber brings us closer to God. Learning about Buber has helped me find a way to truly believe in God. I now know that every time I have an emotional talk with my parents, a deep meaningful conversation with my friends, or a bonding moment with my siblings, I'm strengthening my relationship with God. I now understand that God is not something I have to look for, God is a potential that is always present. Buber's teaching helps us all in the highly divided world in which we live in today. Understanding that we shouldn't make assumptions or judge people may open up a path to dialogue, building bridges beyond what divides us. All this can diminish stereotypes, enable people to see and hear each other, teach us to truly listen, and can help make our world a more thoughtful, humane, and even holy place.
Let's get the room filling with song, our song of freedom, Micha Mocha. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Micha Mocha בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה
Rabbi Larry Kushner teaches about the Kabbalistic truth of entrances. You do not have to go anywhere to raise yourself. You do not have to become anyone other than yourself to find entrances. You are already there. You are already everything you need to be. Entrances are everywhere and all the time. To me, this means you can find God anywhere. All you have to do is see the entrance. I see that entrance by going back in time and remembering all the memories I have with my grandparents. They were always the people I went to with my problems. They lived right up my street, and I'd see them every day. Going through their front door for Sunday dinner was an entrance. It was the best part of the week to see them and be together with generations of family. Dee Dee and Pop helped me to become myself and the person I am today. They instilled confidence in me and always taught me to see the better side of life's problems. They were the most positive people, and they inspired me to know that I can do anything I want as long as I put my mind to it. Being with them anytime allowed me to somehow connect with God. They were and remain my entrance.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Lechayim. Lechayim.
Each week on Tuesdays, I find myself contemplating my place in our world, in God's creation. And each week, I learn one of the almost infinite ways I may see myself in God's image. From what I've come to, there is not one person who doesn't play a role in the creation of someone else in God's image. This may be a small contribution or maybe a huge one, but we are essentially all just walking lights, sparking and growing in each other's flames. In Kabbalist teachings, there's a name for a light that one may have particularly noticed in a small event that may have had a big impact, a messenger moment. We have them all the time. On a run a couple of weeks ago, after losing my great-grandmother, I was stopped by a beautiful old lady. She smiled at me and just wanted to say, "Good for you." As I continue on my run, I get chills. That was something my great-grandmother used to say. I had a feeling my Gigi was very much still here, cheering me on. Not only have I had messenger moments, but I've also been the messenger. You probably have too. Most times, we have no idea. This is never a coincidence, and being a messenger, although I found sometimes hard, allows us to complete each other. You have to give light to get some too. This is the passage of God's wisdom. Connecting with God is as simple as allowing the universe to connect you with other people. And most times, both you and the messenger learn something too. Rabbi Lawrence Kushner teaches, remember only that you are not always going where you are going for the reasons you think you are. whether they know it or not. You are a messenger from the Most High.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha.
Finding God is difficult when you don't even know if you believe in God. Since starting confirmation class, I've tried to figure out how I find God in my own life and where it is present. At the end of every session, when we would reflect and write down our thoughts, I kept circling back to the idea that God is different for every person, and the way that I find God is through my relationships with other people. I now understand that I find God in the simple things, like my relationship with my grandma and grandpa. Martin Buber, the great Jewish existentialist of the 20th century, believed that God is found in our I-thou relationships, which simply means that we can channel God through our special connections. For me, especially the one that is between different generations. Traditionally, there is a sense of hierarchy between a grandparent and a grandchild, teaching the difference between right and wrong. However, my grandparents aren't traditional. They are simply the most loving people I have ever met, the kindest and smartest souls that I know to exist, and the people that made my childhood as special as it was. It is through these two people that I am able to find my connection to God. For me, God is present in the memories and moments that I share with them and the lessons that I've learned. Through them, God is a presence to help me make the right decisions and teach me to use my good fortune to help others. Sharing this special bond with my grandparents has taught me about using my life to help those in need and foster relationships that have deep meaning. The relationship that I have with these two people is beyond words, but it has allowed me to become the best version of myself. I have these two people to thank for the best moments of my life, and now I see also for my connection to God. Because of them, I have learned how to harvest God's presence in my own way and channel it to create it for everlasting bonds. I have them to thank for my connection to Judaism and God, and for being the best two friends a girl could ever ask for. Baruch atah Adonai megan Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Let us bless the wellspring of life, inspiration of Abraham and Sarah.
Growing up in a Reformed family that loves our temple, I've often wondered about God's place in my daily life. Sometimes it's hard to feel God's presence when doing homework, hanging out with friends, or even on the lacrosse field. Even though we're taught that God is everywhere, it's not always easy to see. Where and how do you believe God exists? It's a question that has sparked debates, conversations, and moments of deep reflection. But perhaps the answer lies not in a distant realm or a magical heaven, but right here with our own hearts. The Rabbi of Kotsk once taught, God dwells wherever you let God in. It's a notion that challenges us to consider how we invite the divine presence into our lives. Erich Fromm, a 20th century Jewish philosopher, sheds light on this, and it really resonates with me, writing, when people strive to be the best they can, they are bringing God's goodness into the world. So when we embrace our humanity and strive for goodness, we open up the room for holiness in our lives. Towards the end of the year, Rabbi Serkman asked us a very interesting question. When you believe God is present, what are you feeling and where are you? Right as he asked that question, my mind went right to the 7th grade rec soccer championship. In fact, Jared was on that team. And I know you guys are asking two very important questions. Number one, who won the game? It was us, we won 2-1. And number two, why in the world would you pick such a small moment in our search for understanding? For in that moment, when sharing as a team to be our best by supporting each other, we were striving for goodness. As Erich Fromm saw God at the highest human good, when we create goodness in our daily lives, somehow we manifest God. For Fromm, God is not some distant figure in the sky, but rather the embodiment of goodness, compassion, and humanity at its best. When we embrace love, kindness, and empathy, we are, in essence, bringing God's goodness into the world. And when we do, we discover not only a deeper understanding in ourselves, but also a deep connection to each other and the world around us. In the end, letting God in is more about just a belief. It's about an action. It's about living each day with intention, striving to be the best versions of ourselves, and bringing light into the lives of others. May we all find courage to open our hearts to God within and around us. Baruch atah Adonai michaye hakol. Blessed are you, Adonai, who renews all life.
Over the summer, I traveled to a World War II deportation center in France. I had heard countless facts and narratives about the Holocaust. However, visiting a place where the horrific events unfolded felt incredibly personal. The walls were forever permeated by the hardships and cruelty that the Jewish people who inhabited the building endured. Beside the deportation center, there was a small cattle car that sat on train tracks that led directly to Auschwitz. This cattle car once housed hundreds of exhausted and frightened people, our people. After our trip, I struggled to understand how God could exist. How could a God of compassion have allowed something like this to happen? This question was the biggest obstacle to my understanding of God, and coming to confirmation this year, I hope to receive some clarity. Each lesson we learned, I was able to delve into the teachings of brilliant Jewish thinkers, yet I was still unable to answer the question lingering in the back of my mind. With such undeniable human hate, how could any being we call God exist? In English class this year, we had the opportunity to read Night by Elie Wiesel, and I was truly inspired by his journey in which he walked alongside death, yet never gave in to his despair. When we had our confirmation class lesson on Elie Wiesel, through our stories shared, I was able to learn more about him. Wiesel's kindness and determination to make a positive impact on a world that had caused him such pain shifted my perspective. Perhaps God wasn't absent during the Holocaust. Instead, God was present in Wiesel's survival. God was present in moments of religious practice in secret when, despite it all, the survivor did not abandon his faith. And, most prominently, God was present in moments of hope. As Wiesel states, when all hope is gone, Jews invent new hope. Thus, my question was answered. God was there all along, igniting the hope buried deep within the human spirit to survive. God was there within Jews during the Holocaust. Even in the face of death, they chose life. Before confirmation, God was an all-powerful sovereign in the sky. Now I know God is with me in every moment of hope.
When humans are drenched in evil and blinded by darkness, we naturally turn to the universe for a miracle and pray for refuge even to a God we may not fully believe in or understand. I often sit feeling powerless in a world many claim is dictated by a higher power in the sky. But would our lives be different if we looked for God in a new place? Martin Buber, a 20th century Jewish philosopher, believed that God is the presence of power that we perceive in and through our relationship with the world around us. He proposed that all relationships are summed up in two categories, I, thou, and I, it. When I think about an I, thou relationship in my own life, I think about my camp friends. In these relationships, I experience a sense of understanding, feeling valued and accepted for exactly who I am. Our shared experiences like traveling to Canada, eating the questionable mess hall food, and sneaking Ben & Jerry's late at night create a sense of camaraderie amongst us. In addition, skipping all of our activities provided a lot of time to open up about our feelings. Through our honesty, we were able to have empathy, understanding, and love for each other that I know will continue beyond the borders of Camp Danby. By fostering these connections, humans reach the eternal thou, God. The I-thou relationship contracts with the more detached I-it relationship, which involves interacting with others in the world as objects to be used, analyzed, or categorized. This existentialist firmly argued that this style of connection is the pathway to radical evil, where God withdraws from humanity. This is because pure I-it relationships in the first degree cause us to remain passive to injustices we see in the world because we lack empathy for others. When I reflect on bystanders in the face of evil, I think about the many who witnessed the 6 million Jewish people being murdered during the Holocaust. That is the ultimate example of radical evil. Having some I-it relationships is common. However, lacking I-thou relationships means missing out on a deeper level of humanity, according to Buber. When we relate to the world and those who populate it with I-thou relationships, harmful behavior is diminished. By recognizing the humanity in others through these relationships, individuals are inspired to uphold moral integrity, creating a culture of kindness and compassion that minimizes evil. The next time you turn to the sky in hopes of alleviating the evil in the world, peer down and over to your neighbor to foster an I-thou relationship that counteracts with wrongdoings and restores the goodness of humanity. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
The middle of page 14. For the gift of our souls, for the promise of our lives, for all we are and all we might yet become, for the creative seeds sown within our minds, whose nurturing can yield a grand harvest. For all these gifts, we thank you, O God, and pray that we prove ourselves worthy. Together, may our lives be ripe with the fruit of compassion, sweetly sustaining those in need. May we use our gifts wisely and with love, true messengers of blessing to the world. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulcha na'el lehodot.
After surviving the Nazi death camps, reflecting upon his time in captivity, Elie Wiesel describes the three options Jewish people had. We can choose resignation, total resignation, as some of us did 1 generation ago, or we can seek refuge in self-delusion, as some individual Jews did. But then there is a third option, the most difficult but most beautiful of all, to face the human condition and to do so as a Jew. Wiesel is reflecting upon the difficulty of staying true to yourself. It is within this difficult choice that perseverance and holiness are shown. If the Jewish people in Nazi concentration camps discontinued their Jewish faith, how would they ever be free? How would the restoration of Judaism ever begin? It is easy to give up when facing such hardship, such horror. The Jewish struggle for identity and perseverance in the face of adversity can still be seen today. The ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict serves as a modern parallel to Wiesel's reflection. The choices presented to the people and communities of Israel today echo the choices Wiesel described: resignation, self-delusion, or confronting the human condition with a commitment to Jewish identity. The perseverance required to maintain this strength amidst a long, continuous conflict is truly a testament to the enduring spirit of the Jewish people. The pursuit of peace and coexistence on the holy soil are best represented by Wiesel's third option. Though the most challenging, this option calls upon the human emotions of compassion, integrity, and courage. It demands that we rise above resignation and self-delusion, above anger and war, to embrace ideas that can lead to understanding. In the camps, Wiesel described to refuse to let the Nazi terror diminish his humanity. Israel must do the same. This path leads the land of Israel to a harmonious future where respect and coexistence can flourish.
I was sitting in my global class a couple weeks ago when a fellow classmate walked in wearing a shirt with the Palestinian flag. The shirt read, "United we stand." Later that day at confirmation class, we were tasked with picking a thinker for our Sinai statement. This is when I realized I wanted to dive deeper into Theodor Herzl and the meaning of Zionism. Herzl's dream was for the Jewish people to have their own state. He wanted Israel to be a place where Jews could live freely in the Promised Land and live peacefully amongst each other, their Arab neighbors included. Herzl died in 1904, and the State of Israel was established in 1948. If he was here today, I can only imagine how devastated he would be to see the current conflict going on between Israel and Palestine. The State of Israel was founded as a response to the Holocaust, and it has ultimately been at war with the surrounding Arab nations ever since. However, this doesn't mean that Israel is opposed to having Arabs live there as well. All Israel wants is a home for the Jews and the continuation of Israel as a Jewish state. In a world where most countries are inclusive, it's difficult for Israel to remain exclusive. Yet, in truth, it can be both. A place the Jewish people can call home, which has room for others to find a place there as well. Now more than ever, however, it's important for Israel to embolden our right to self-determination. As a Jewish teenager in high school, it's hard to see other classmates or even celebrities hate Israel, a place that Judaism cherishes. We live in a very Jewish community, which almost acts as a bubble to what's really happening in the world. It shields us from the reality that many people to this day are extremely anti-Semitic, some anti-Zionistic. It was only after October 7th that I saw everyone's true colors. Being a Zionist does not mean agreeing with every policy decision of Israel's government, any more than being patriotic means endorsing everything the current administration does. Being a Zionist, especially on Herzl's terms, means keeping the dream alive, working for an Israel that is democratic, where justice and righteous acts guide the nation every day. As Herzl might remind us, if you will it, it is no dream. Please join us in saying a prayer for the state of Israel. God of old, we know the price of safety. We know the cost of security. We know the dangers we have faced and the danger that lies ahead. This is not the path we hope for, nor is it our desire. Yet we cannot be held captive to hatred and violence.
How much longer shall we wait? Source of peace, help us fill the world with peace. Inspire us to be the Israel that brings goodness, blessing, grace, and kindness, justice and compassion to all the world. Amen.
Having been inspired, challenged, lots of thoughts and lots of questions, we take a few minutes. There are more to come, but close your eyes, reflect on what you've heard, reflect on what's in our world or inside you.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechu hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechu hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
When is the Holy One for me most present? As a Jewish teenager, I never really thought much about this question until this year. I rarely think about God, and certainly have never thought about when in my life I'm closest to God. I just sort of take it for granted. I'm here, and God is, well, wherever God is. I don't feel closest to God when I'm at school or with my friends and family or when I'm on vacation. So actually, when do I feel closest to God? When trying to answer this question, a key Jewish thinker who helped me was mid-20th century conservative Rabbi Milton Steinberg. One thing he said that helped me was, to the extent of the reality of our freedom, God is limited in his power. If a man is to have real freedom, God's control cannot be complete. I think Steinberg is saying that God meets us halfway. If we want to become the people we can, we have to exercise our freedom. Being limited in his power, God leaves it up to us to carry the torch and reach our full potential. After reading this, I realize I'm closest to God when I'm doing all I can to bring good into the world. If one of God's main goals for us is to leave a positive impact on the world, then when we do good deeds, we are closest to God. Even though I don't think of it, I guess God is there every single day.
Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim שלושה דברים העולם עומד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים על שלושה דברים על שלושה דברים העולם עומד על שלושה דברים על שלושה דברים העולם עומד על שלושה דברים
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'devar Adonai miYerushalayim. For out of Zion shall go forth the Torah, the word of Adonai from Jerusalem.
As Israel in every generation confirms his covenant, so with these words we now pledge ourselves to you.
To the pact we made at Sinai.
To the commitment which calls us to live Jewish life.
Receiving Torah in the presence of Sinai, I consecrate my life to my people and to my people's faith. As a Jew, I inherit 4,000 years of sacred history. I accept my heritage as a commitment to continue the Jewish way of life. I vow throughout my life to live covenant, striving to bring blessing to Israel and peace to all our world.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Lecha Adonai Hagedula Ve'Hagevura V'Tiferet Ve'Hanetzach Ve'Hachod Ki Chol Bashamayim U'Va'aretz Ki Chol Bashamayim U'Va'aretz Lecha Adonai HaMamlacha Le'amid Na'aseh Lechol Le'rosh.
Judaism has always been something that I struggled with. I always felt connected to my Jewish heritage and culture, but when it came down to the actual religious part, I've always hesitated. I know this may be contradictory to say in a place of worship, but part of me thinks that religion is a sham, a charlatan and a fake made up by a few rich white guys, okay? Not actually rich or white, but bearded and rabbinic. Way back when. I've always thought that religion instead is more personal, is more about the people than the higher power. Even though that goes against traditional Jewish thinking, I am not alone in my sentiment. Erich Fromm also had similar doubts about religion in the traditional sense. Fromm was fervent in his belief in Judaism and the fact that there is a God, even if his God might surprise you. As a religious humanist, Fromm brought God down to earth. He said God stands for the highest value, the most desirable good. Hence, the most specific meaning of God depends on what is most desirable and good for a person. And after almost a full year of confirmation class and grappling with what God is, I had my epiphany moment. I realized that I have too also always thought of God not as a wise old man in the sky, but as an ideal to strive for to make the world a better place. Fromm's thinking reorients religion from being God-centered to being people-centered. This means that we as human beings possess the power to bring God to life by the goodness we carry out through the lives that we live.
Throughout my life, my perspective on God has continually changed. If you asked me this question when I was younger, I would say that God is a higher power who has control over all of our lives. I would say that everything in the Torah is true. My thoughts over the past year of confirmation class have changed my perspective. I began to realize that the Torah is not to be taken literally, but as a metaphor. I slowly started to shift my thinking away from the literal words of Torah. I believe now the Torah is a metaphor. I've had conversations with my parents about what they think Judaism and God and the Torah. My mom said she relates to Judaism because of the community and how it promotes the good in people. My dad said he believes in God because who could possibly have created the universe? One of the thinkers I most relate to is Rambam. Rambam believed that God was the idea behind or the mind of the universe. He was highly influenced by Greek mythology and Aristotle. Rambam asks, how do we know that God exists? The proof begins with the observation that every object in the world is moved by another, but this cannot go on forever. This is where the idea of God comes in. Rambam teaches that God is the idea that started everything, the organizing idea that holds the universe together. Though God might not quite be a metaphor, God as the principal idea behind all things means that when we use our intellects to help the world reach higher, we are channeling God.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamburach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Anohi Adonai Elohecha Asher Hotzeiticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Me'ibeit Avadim.
Lo Ihi Elecha Elohim Acherim Al Panai.
Lo ta'aseh leha fesel vehotemuna asher bashamayim mima. Asher ba.
No, that's not it. Here, that's the wrong one too. It's such a big
Ba'asher ba'aretz mitachat ba'asher b'mayim.
Mitachat la'aretz letishtaveh lahem velo tovdeim.
Ki Anohi Adonai Elohecha El Pana Poked.
Avon, Avon, Al Beneim, Asher Ishim, Ve'al Beim, Lesonai.
Ve'oseteha alafim la'alavi u'shamrei mitzvotah.
Lo tisa et Shem Adonai Elohecha la'asher ki lo yakeh Adonai et asher yisa et shemo la'asher.
Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho sheshet yamim ta'avod ve'asita kol melachtecha.
Beyom Hashvi'i Shabbat Ladonai Elohecha Lo Ta'aseh Uvi Ata Uvincha Uvitecha
Abdecha ve'amacha Aushemtecha V'yetercha Asher Bisharecha Ki Lish Elohi Adosa Adonai El Tashamayim Et Haaretz. Hold that, yeah.
Et hayam ve'et kol asher ba vayana bayom hashvi'i.
Okay. Barak Adonai Et Yom HaShabbat Ve'yakadshehu
Kaved et avicha et imecha lema'an arichu yamecha al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach.
Lo tirtzach, lo tin'af, lo tignov, lo ta'aneh v're'atza eid shaker.
Lo takmod beit re'eha, lo takmod eshet re'eha.
Ve'avdo ve'hamato ve'shoro ve'hamaro ve'al asher l're'echa.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'torenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
In July 2023, I underwent surgery to correct a chest wall deformity. As an avid athlete who had competed in nationally ranked taekwondo tournaments and participated on my club soccer team, this condition threatened to take away the sports I had loved. Prior to my surgery, my surgeon had warned me that the recovery was expected to take 4 weeks, essentially stealing away a significant portion of my summer. However, an unexpected complication led to a second hospitalization, prolonging my journey to recovery. It was in the midst of my disappointment that my surgeon offered a simple yet profound gesture, a hug. Though seemingly trivial, that embrace provided me with a sense of grounding and belonging, a reassurance that everything would be all right no matter how long the road was ahead. Over the past year, during my confirmation classes with Rabbi Serkman, we learned about the concept of messengers, ordinary individuals sent by God to perform a specific duty. Rabbi Larry Kushner, explaining Kabbalah's insight, stated, "Most messengers are unsuspecting and unaware of their God-given tasks. Instead, they're often consumed by their own daily routines. Through the hug that my surgeon gave me, he was a messenger, sharing an act of kindness somehow sent by God to provide me comfort and reassurance. Messengers may not recognize the larger impact of their actions. Instead, they may treat them as a simple steps within the myriad of daily occurrences that make up their lives. Yet nonetheless, their impact is greater than they'll ever know. Going through all that I did led me to question why bad things like the complications I faced during my surgery happen to good people. Why would a universal force for good, God, allow such things to occur? Where is God's presence in these trying, terrible times? The profound belief in messengers helps me understand maybe God sends messengers who can help smooth over the rougher edges. After much thought, I came to the conclusion that bad things will always happen to individuals, whether good or bad. We never know why. But it is up to the individuals to make the best of their situation. When life throws you a curveball, find solace in the simple gestures. Everyone goes through some rough spots. It is up to you, with the help of the messengers you dare not miss, to get through them. In my situation, I chose to seek out the supportive community of the Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, including the nurses, the staff, and my surgeon. While the journey was difficult and tedious, their kindness and optimism made all the difference in my recovery. Without my surgical complications, I would miss the opportunity to connect with them on a deeper level, with my medical team, and especially with my surgeon, whom my family now considers a close family friend. I consider him a messenger.
We rise together, thinking about the people in our lives who are broken by physical, emotional distress, struggling against ill health, longing for healing and hope, recognizing as we may whisper their name in a moment, we might be that messenger for someone in their quest for healing and wholeness. If you're thinking of somebody, whisper their name now aloud.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing, with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. The scroll from which we just read the Ten Commandments is one of the two Czech scrolls rescued during the Shoah, the Holocaust, that we house thanks to the Westminster Synagogue in London. It's on permanent reserve, on loan here. But the fact that our kids are reading from a Holocaust scroll, some of those were burned on Kristallnacht. This one was redeemed and repatched. We house it with honor and pride, and our children read it tonight.
B'zot haTorah asher samosha lifnei bnei Yisrael. Avi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai.
On page 21.
It's Chaim Hila Machazikim Avetom Hecha Me'ushar. It's Chaim Hila Machazikim Avetom Hecha Me'ushar.
Shalom, 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 shalom. It is a tree of life to them that hold fast to it. All of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to them that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
Standing here in the presence of our sacred scroll, our tree of life, we are witness to God's presence speaking through its words as we acknowledge the class of 5784, students confirming their commitment to covenant.
Standing here in the presence of Torah, we are witness to the timeless text unfolding as we gather at the foot of that mountain this moment to hear the eternal echo in our souls.
But Sinai was only the beginning, a journey which must be made. In every generation, so the blessings of Torah will never cease to flow. In each age, we receive and transmit this teaching. At all times, its words speak, if we will hear.
In each age, we add our insights, harvesting with the planters who have come before us. Each new generation must tend the tree of our tradition in order for fruit to grow. Sinai is our new beginning, its echo calling us to transform tomorrow, its covenant to keep the commitments which guide our lives.
Sinai is every moment that the scroll comes to life through our search. Sinai is every moment that our learning bears blessing through our lives.
Confirmation parents, behold.
How do we look to God in all senses of our lives? Throughout my life, I have found myself looking to God in times of misfortune. The most pervasive example of this being when my brother had a pretty intense health scare last year. I felt myself praying to God that he would be okay. But I have noticed that I don't connect with God in times of joy. I sometimes wish that my relationship with God went beyond looking to him as a last resort and more as something who will always be there. In exploring the many God thinkers we explored this year in confirmation, the one who spoke to me the most was Martin Buber. He helps me find God in times of joy rather than as a last resort when life is difficult. Buber believes that we find God through our relationships with other people. Buber saw the world in two different ways, I-it moments and I-thou moments. Buber describes I-it moments as day-to-day surface-level relationships, while he describes I-thou moments as genuine encounters between two people that transcend the superficial interactions of everyday life. Buber also understands that an I-it moment is able to change into an I-thou moment and vice versa. Buber helped me realize that my relationship with God has been mostly I-it. I would only talk to God or put faith in God at times where I needed a little bit of hope. But even then, I didn't really believe in God. I was just looking to some power beyond for a solution. After hearing Buber's philosophy, I realized that I could find God in all moments of my life, and not just in times where I needed help. Buber helped change my relationship with God from an I-it to an I-thou. Now, instead of using God as a last resort, or turning to God only at the most trying times, I see God everywhere.
Now I have opened myself to the possibility of an I-thou relationship with God. I no longer see God as a distant being. God's presence is everywhere. Whenever we relate to another person authentically, open-heartedly, and honestly, through the most sincere relationships we share, God is there to help guide us.
I am unwritten, can't read my mind, I'm undefined. I'm just beginning, the pen's in my hand, ending unplanned. Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you cannot find, reaching for something in the distance, so close you could almost taste it. Release your inhibitions, feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Judge yourself in words unspoken, live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins, the rest is still unwritten. I break tradition, sometimes my tries are outside the lines. We've been conditioned to not make mistakes, but I can't live that way. Staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you cannot find, reaching for something in the distance, so close you could almost taste it. Release your inhibitions, feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Judge yourself in words unspoken, live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins, the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Judge yourself in words unspoken, live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins, the rest is still unwritten.
The big question for me, as well as most likely everyone else while entering this confirmation class, was simply, do you believe in God? You may think there's not much else to that question other than a simple yes or no. I didn't particularly believe in God coming into this year, as I was wondering, what could we possibly do for a year about this simple topic? I always just thought God was an old man with a big gray beard in the sky watching over all of us at all times. What if he's not? What if God isn't real at all but still impacts our lives? We got a choice a few weeks ago to choose from our entire year's exploration which thinker relates to us the most. I chose Elie Wiesel. I just came off reading the book Night in my English class, and that book had a profound impact on me I haven't had from a book before. Once I read and began to consider his understandings of God, I immediately knew. The question that Wiesel explores is what drives a major extent of my questions. How could God let his biggest followers suffer through, in my opinion, the worst event of all time? We all go through terrible times. We all have our lows, and we may even have times where we say that life isn't worth living. Life seems so difficult that we don't even try to fix things and just sit in complete despair. God is supposed to give us comfort, lift us out of those times, right? How could God be real if he lets us fall into such terrible situations and then doesn't pick us right up out of them? Where is he? What if God is the spark of hope? Wiesel made it through the toughest of toughest events by just simply keeping hope alive. He writes that, when all hope is gone, Jews invent new hopes. Wiesel explains how the simple dividing line between the survivors and the victims came down to who kept hope and who lost hope. If God is anywhere to be found, Wouldn't it be in the spark of human hope? Although I may not have believed in God before, throughout the year, I've come to believe that He is somehow impacting our lives. I may not completely know where God is. Nobody really knows. But what I am sure of is that letting God in, you can find a path to success and life. If you don't open the door, you may never know where that path may be. Which brings us back to Elie Wiesel. Finding God means finding hope. That is how we overcome challenges in dark times. You must hold on to hope, for that is where you'll find God. Maybe that is what God is trying to tell all of us to do.
Elie Wiesel once asked the question, what does being a Jew mean in these times? To be a Jew in these times means to stand up for your people and your identity. In these times more than ever, people are trying to strip our identity away to make us less than who we are. But these are the times that we should stand up stronger and more proud than ever. In an essay entitled To a Young Jew of Today, Wiesel presents the challenge, to be a Jew is to work for the survival of a people, your people, whose legacy to you is its collective memory in its entirety. To be a Jew in these trying times means to be resilient, especially now when anti-Semitism is growing more and more, when so many seem to hate us just for being us. It might be easier to hide, to go about our lives without outwardly living Jewish lives, but that would be a lie, as Elie Wiesel has shown by surviving the ultimate evil of Auschwitz. Going through the worst of times can make us stronger. In fact, as he writes, it makes us even more. We are all survivors. To be a Jew today means to testify, to bear witness to what is and what is no longer, to transform death into the promise of life.
One of my favorite parts of Judaism is that believing in God is not a requirement. It is possible for me to be a good Jew, fulfill the mitzvot, and support my community, all without ever contemplating God's existence. Although this is how I've practiced Judaism for quite some time, I appreciate the confirmation has pushed me out of my comfort zone and has made me think about God in a new light. Through months of lessons, Rabbi Serkman has taught us differing views on God of strong Jewish thinkers. The main one that stood out to me was Martin Buber. Buber said, all real living is meeting. Or in modern English, he believed that God is between people during an emotional connection. After learning about Buber's thinking, I tried to apply it to my own life. This year has been my first personal experience with death. My grandpa, or Shaba, has slowly declined in front of my family over the past couple of months. My grandpa, who up until recently was in newspapers for his insane psychotic cycling excursions, who has made me an Everton fan, and has led our Seders every year for as long as I can remember. I'm not going to stand up in front of all of you, and I guess God too, and say that I've been strong through this whole process. But one of the main ways of making this part of life somewhat easier is filtering it through the thinking of Martin Buber. The idea that my final moments with my grandfather are witnessed by God makes them feel holy. Sorry, Rabbi Serkman told me to feel all the feelings when I say the speech.
Who stole the tissues? That was really There were tissues here.
Okay.
Just do this.
When I visited my grandpa in Liverpool, England over Passover break, I entered an I thou moment. Although Shaba is losing awareness of his surroundings, he still noticed my family and my visit and was filled with immense joy. We chatted about things like how it was shockingly sunny, a rare occurrence in England. It is really depressing over there. And shared lighthearted memories of going to soccer games, or I guess football, and his fondness of his childhood. After a bit, conversation became difficult. The easiest thing was to just sit in each other's company. Me, my brother, my father, and grandpa, 3 generations, jamming to Bring Me Sunshine by Willie Nelson. Eventually, Tiny Dancer by Elton John came on, and I genuinely felt the air shift. The chorus builds up with Elton belting, but oh, how it feels so real, lying here with no one near, only you, and you can hear me. Our eyes became teary, and my grandpa's hand went into my dad's. Our crying became quite uncomfortable for my grandpa as he begged us to stop. And my grandfather, who my 53-year-old dad has only seen crying twice and once over a dog, began to cry. This moment, taking its place above seeing Everton beat, or actually just completely destroy, Manchester United 4-0 live, became the moment I truly felt closest to Shaba. Although I'm still not totally convinced that there is a God out there, and if there is, they definitely don't control my free will, because I like to think that I have the power over my own decisions, it is comforting to think that there might be a God in here, between me and my grandpa at a timeless moment like this. It is comforting to know that according to Buber, God was present and bonded me and my grandfather together. Somehow, through our tears, God was there.
Especially in our tears, God is there. We rise together in our moment of memory on page 26, and we think of all of those, as some of you put it, those entryways in our lives, those generations who came before us, who shaped us, perhaps after whom we're named, those teachers and mentors and guides, those messengers who made us us. If you're thinking of someone in particular or who died in recent days and you want to share their name out loud, I invite you to say it at this time. We thank God for the gift of their lives and all they leave us, joining together in words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Amei Rabbah be'alma divrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei B'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach leolam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudasha barechu le'elam min kol birchata b'shirata Tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories ever be for blessing.
Throughout confirmation classes this year, every week we would try to find God. As the weeks passed, we learned about what different people thought God was, but throughout all the classes, a question remained in the back of my mind. Even if I figure out how to let God in, what's the point? There are so many problems in the world, and it didn't seem like letting God in would do anything to fix them. If terrible things like war and hate can exist, how can God be there? Elie Wiesel believed that God is the power we have in ourselves to find hope in the face of despair. This really resonated with me because it allowed me to realize that God is not some celestial being watching over us, but something inside of us. Despite all the evils in the world today, life goes on. Not only does life go on, but we can try to make the world better. We have hope, and in that hope, we can find God. We let God in because God is the hope that fuels us to keep going, to never give up, and to make the world a better place. Whenever I felt down or stuck, not knowing what to do, I always eventually realized that if I kept at it, things would get better. When the pandemic forced my bar mitzvah to be online, I was disappointed. Despite this, in the back of my mind, I had a hope that things would eventually get better, and so I kept working hard. Slowly, things did get better. And even though I didn't realize it at the time, that hope inside of me, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, was how I let God in during a time where it seemed like nothing would get better. This summer, I was supposed to travel to Israel. While that unfortunately was put on hold, I've connected with God in a different way. By keeping the hope of eventually going to Israel, I'm continuing the hope that the Jewish people have had for thousands of years. Elie Wiesel says, when all hope is gone, Jews invent new hopes. and when we continue to hope for a better world, one with peace and love instead of hate, even when it is hard, we can let God in wherever life takes us.
Confirmation is a wonderful experience that allows students to explore who or what is God and what that means to each of us as individuals. There are many questions of who and what regarding Judaism, but I wish to introduce a why for us to consider. Why be Jewish? Jews have been victims of persecution since the beginning of time. Jews have often been treated horribly, and life as a Jew may seem quite awful. Many, as a result, deny or have denied their Jewish roots, or have ignored them altogether. Yet here we are, confirming ourselves as proud Jews. It seems so much easier to just not be Jewish. So why should we remain so? Rabbi Jonathan Sacks was not only a former member of the House of Lords in the United Kingdom, but also the chief rabbi of the British Commonwealth. Sacks understood that there were many people asking this why question. In his book, A Letter in the Scroll, Sacks addresses this very issue. He emphasizes the importance of continuing the scroll, which is a metaphor he uses to signify tradition and values. By continuing the scroll, we are passing on traditions and values to future generations. This is one of the prides of being a Jew, passing Judaism on to our children. Sacks states that what makes Judaism so special is the connection between man and God, commonly referred to as a covenant. God and man must come together to extinguish the flames that reside in our society. As he poignantly put it, covenant turns law into love and love into law. This means that in covenant, rules come out of a place of love, and the rules are to love. At the start, I was very confused. How could one maintain a covenant with God? That sounds extremely difficult, if not near impossible. That is where I was mistaken. If God is infused in everything, the best way to strengthen a relationship with God is to strengthen relationships with others. By showing love and compassion, we can live in covenant with God and extinguish the flames of our current world. Confronting the Israel and Palestine struggle, it is hard to be Jewish at this time. To see many Jewish brothers and sisters fall day by day is very emotionally painful. We may feel that God is not present. However, God is the solution. We see flames raging, fires of hate consuming God's creation, and as Rabbi Sacks said, it takes man and God to extinguish the flames. We need God. We must keep our covenant. We keep our covenant by being Jewish. In such a time of despair, we must be proud Jews. We must be proud of our values, our traditions, our homeland, of who and why we are. Sharing with you why I am Jewish, it is time for us all to look within. Why are you Jewish? It is imperative that we know the purpose of our faith, but what is so beautiful about Judaism is that the answer is very personal. No one can tell you. I challenge each and every one of you to dig deep and figure out, in a world that begs the question, what does Judaism mean to you?
How you feeling? I always ask that at the end of a B'nai Mitzvah. You know that I always ask kids, how you feeling? I'm going to tell you how you're feeling. Wow. This is a wow moment. It's a wow moment because of what you've done. You don't even know what you've done. But I'll tell you. By sharing questions, by sharing your search for answers, by opening us up to your discoveries, your insights, your illuminations, your joy, your struggles, your tears, you have helped us understand where your book begins. Not your new novel, though that would be very lovely, but rather the book of our covenantal tomorrow, the text of our lives that helps us try to make sense of our world and our place within it. It is what we have been writing all year. Every day, every Tuesday, how do I start class? We're in the front foyer, and I say, all right, open your Breed books to the next available page, and you write something on top of the page. That Breed book is your book. That is your diary. What did your sister say to me, Gabe, when I saw her at dinner? I have my brief book. It's in my closet. I see it every day. What did I say to her? Keep writing in it. Your book is beginning. It's begun with your discoveries. For some of you, it's Buber in relationships. For it's Fromm, right? And the highest human good. For some of you, it's Wiesel. How do you face evil and transcend it? There are so many different thinkers. Rambam, right? The God you can't say anything positive about, but we know doesn't have a body and exists and is somehow one. There's so many ways to think of God, but you have opened us up. Why? Your willing wonderment, your spiritual search, because you listen to one another, the comments, the questions, the confusion, you opened each other to one another's hearts. What makes this class different than some classes? Not everyone. You actually appreciated each other and had I-thou moments in the middle of confirmation class. Unbelievable. You heard one another, you listened, and you allowed each other to be yourselves. You didn't try to change Emma or Zion, right? Or Noah, or you name it. You said, oh, that's cool. That's an amazing thing. So what have you really created? What has this confirmation done? You have become a community in covenant, where each person matters, where what you say counts, and where each of you has something to say that's worth hearing. Just think if you treated everybody in life like you treat the fellow, your 26 confirmands every single week. You weren't all friends. You weren't all people who went to school together. Some of you schlepped from far away, but you showed up, and you listened, and you questioned, and you struggled. That is a community in covenant. This is where your book begins. But it doesn't end, because the search keeps going. PostCon, opening session, October 10th, 6 o'clock, Nautilus Diner. We'll be there. We're in the back room. We have the tables on reserve. Every week, we eat dinner. We order quickly, we eat dinner, and we talk about something that's important, something that's Jewish, and how it matters to our world. For me, next to confirmation, it is the coolest part of the week. No candy, but you can order anything you want. Everything is kosher once we say a blessing over it. It's all good. In the meantime, understand this. The pen remains in your hand, so keep your arms and your hearts wide open. Keep asking the big questions that have no answers, and recognize amazing confirmands teaching us tonight, as you've taught me every single Tuesday night, wondering and wandering together. What you've done by sharing your hearts and your spirits is made revelation real. Somehow, thanks to you, God is in the building. Everybody's celebrating you. The whole congregation is saying, I didn't know she thought that. When did that happen? What's going on? It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. And so we want to celebrate you. I'm going to ask the president of our congregation to come on up and share some words of mazel.
Thank you. Rabbi said short. Working on it. Chag Sameach to everybody. What a wonderful gift and sight it was to see our 26 confirmands marching in one by one, coming in, and all I could think of was the immortal words of Roy Scheider in Jaws, we're going to need a bigger bima. But you guys, you haven't seen Jaws, I get it, but it's funny. It's funny. It's funny. Little adopted. I want to thank you all. I'm going to have to keep leaning back and forth because you're seated on my two sides. I'm talking to them, guys, not so much to you. I want to thank you all for teaching us and for showing us all the different varied ways that you learned. That 26 of you, each one of you had such a different statement, such a different view, so much that you took away and took to heart and brought individually. And I thought there are 26 letters of the alphabet, and like the letters of the alphabet forming every word there is, amongst the 26 of you, we had the totality of all these Jewish thinkers and all the different ways you could look at the world. And it was really a gift that you gave to us. So thank you for that. This year in particular, and I think a few of you have noted this, this year in particular, it's so important that you're reaffirming your Judaism, that you're re-examining your Judaism and your belief in relationship with God. And we're just very grateful to you for opening your hearts and your minds to us and showing us all that you are and all that you'll become. Your parents, I know, are incredibly proud. We thank you all, parents, too, as well. I know you're all felling with pride out there, as are we all. But you all, you 26 confirmands, you inspire us, you give us hope for the future of the world and for the future of the Jewish people. I hope you continue your Jewish journey through post-con or Madrahim or Larfi or whatever it is as you go on to college and achieving great things. And I just want to say, on behalf of the board, the trustees, and the congregation, Yasher Koach, very, very well said, and congratulations and Mazel Tov. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rabbi Eve Rudin. I'm the Director of Education, Youth, and Families. And if my memory serves and my mathematics serve correctly, I believe I've known many of our confirmands since the 2nd grade. A highlight for all of us, not so much, was grade 7 on Zoom. You haven't been on Zoom until you've been together as a community of 7th grade. But I just want to echo, and I'm being short, is that there's nothing that brings honor most to your teachers is when you teach all of us. So we are the people of the book. In addition, I'm just going to say in Jewish prayer, we have keva, which is the fixed word, and then we have kavanah, which is our own intentions. Your Brit books are your kavanah, your writings, your midrash, your interpretations, and we're giving you the fixed book. That would be Torah, prophets, and writings, a Tanakh, that can be your very own. So I'm going to call out your name. You're also going to get a wonderful certificate that you had your confirmation service this evening. Noah Bauer. You want them to stay up here? Sure, yes, yes. Zion Bennett. Ava Bloom. Oh, Ava was over here, okay. Delaney Bloom. Jack Chiravelli. Alessandra Day. Over there. Lindsay Donovan. Also over here. Is it Lindsay? Yeah. Alexa Dorff. Is over here. Alexandra Gill. Where's Alexa? Alex over here. Lila Hazen. Ezra Katz. Emma Kerwin. Eden Knight. Max Kohler. Max was on this side. Gabe Kraut. Nate Kulish. Is Nate not here? Oh. Ryan Master. Jared Rabina. Jolie Shine. Eliana Schnapp. Lainey Schreier. Dylan Sr. Noah Siegel. Yes, we need another, like, a new Bema here. Maya Silverberg. Matthew Tauber.
As we rise for our closing song, I remind you that it's tradition on Shavuot, the time of the giving of Torah, to eat dairy. And so we have the traditional make your own Sunday dessert back in the garden room, I believe.
Just as Moses had it.
Just as Moses and the Holy One had with what we would call...
Like one straw, two straws, one... Never
No,
mind.
but I'm sure they had Jimmy's. I'm sure they had Jimmy's. Anyway, at any rate, we share in our closing song.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Lidor vador nagi god lecha. Lidor vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. Lidor vador,